Next, we'll review sales and operation planning. Till now, we have reviewed how to create a demand plan, how to bring in forecast from third-party systems, and use both the forecast and demand plan to derive your supply plan. However, before doing all these activities, you might be using sales and operational planning. So actually, if you're using sales and operational planning, that will be your first activity. First, you do the sales and operational planning, and then you copy the measures from the sales and operational planning to your demand supply planning. There are mainly two key objectives behind doing sales and operational planning. The first objective is to have a long-term strategic plan. So suppose you want to predict what is going to be your demand for next 3 years, and you want to build up your capacity or capability as per those 3 years demand, then you use sales and operational planning. Then the second objective is, as I've already mentioned, you can use sales and operational planning to have your demand and supply plan derived as per your sales and operational planning. Because when you did the demand planning or supply planning or demand and supply planning, we did the planning process, but there was no easy mechanism to collaborate it. If you want various teams to be involved in the planning process and you get the approval from all the team members, whether it is from productions or sales operations or finance or from the higher senior management, there is no easy mechanism to collaborate all those peoples and get their approval and finally use that forecast for your production plan. If you want to have that kind of process, then you can use SOP. So in SOP, first you do a very high level planning, and in that planning you can have some kind of constraint. It is not very detailed constraint, but you can have constraint in the work center level as well as in the supplier level, and you get the approval from all the departments. And then finally, when the SOP plan is approved by everyone, including the senior management, you copy the output of the SOP plan to your actual production plan, and that would be used for running the operations, for releasing work orders, for releasing purchase orders. So this is one way of using SOP, and the second way is, I have already mentioned, you can also use SOP output for your long-term strategic planning to build up your capability, to build up your capacity, or to think about investing in new fixed assets in the same organizations or in a different organizations. That's another usage of sales and operational planning. So here are the key points to understand about sales and operational planning. Sales and operational planning aligns organizations around an integrated operating planning to meet strategic business goals. So these are the key important points. One is, it helps you align the organizations with an integrated operation planning. Till now, what we have been doing more with for planners or buyers, those departments are involved. Finance is not involved in your daily production plan or your demand plan. It's mostly the operations, and within operations it is planning department, purchasing department, and maybe to an extent production. But when it comes to long-term strategic planning, you want to get the involvement from all the departments, including sales, which is usually not involved in your demand and supply planning, and finance, which is again not involved in your demand and supply planning. As well as you also want to get the approval from the senior management, from the executive level, so that they all are in the loop and they all know about the plan for the organizations for next 6 months, 1 year, or if it is a very long-term strategic plan, it may be for next 3 years. You can align the enterprise, analyze plan performance, and act to create and execute new plans. These are the various steps that we do in a sales and operation planning, and most of the activities we have already done as part of demand and supply plan. So maybe we will not go through all those steps again, because we know how the process works. System wise, it is exactly the same process. We know how to do data collections. When you do data collections, you can do the data collections either from Oracle Fusion, inventory, or management, or various other systems such as manufacturing. And if you are not using all those modules in Oracle Cloud, then you can also bring all the item routing, work definitions, calendars, various other entities that is required for demand supply planning as well as for SOP from your third-party system, example EBS. So we collect the data, then we also load data from third-party system using Excel. Then once these two activities are completed, then we create a plan. If it is a demand supply plan, we create a demand supply plan. In case of SOP, we'll be creating an SOP plan. So that's the third activity. We have already seen how these things works together. Next, we'll load measures from other plans. Till now, we haven't done that, but we'll see how that is done in SOP planning. So you can load measures from other plans, or when a plan is completed. In case of SOP, like when the plan is finally approved, you can copy the output of the SOP plan to your production plan, to your demand and supply plan, and we'll see that in this session. So this is something that we haven't reviewed it, and we'll do it in this session. Next, process review stage. This is the core functionality of SOP. This is something different that didn't exist in demand planning or supply planning or demand and supply planning. And in process review stage, we get approval from various departments that I've already mentioned several times. So this is the process review step. Is a collaborative stage where you involve all the people who needs to be in the loop when it comes to sales and operation planning. And finally, when we get the approval from everyone, we do the last step, that is approve and execution. And here, if required, you can copy the measures from this sales and operation planning to a different planning. That would be your operation plan, that would be your demand and supply plan. So these are the four key activities. Manage plans, we have already reviewed it several times. And what are the activities that we do over here in manage plans? We create and define plans. We can also copy plan from an existing plan. If you already have an SOP plan for say 2018, and if you want to use the similar structure in 2019, then you can copy it and make the modifications as required in 2019. When the plan is created and or copied and you have run the plan, then you can open the plan to view what is the suggestion of the system as per your planning measures, input planning measures, what system is suggesting your output planning measure, how the KPIs looks like. When it comes to SOP, Oracle comes with several nice inbuilt info tiles, and you can use those info tiles to have a quick about all the major KPIs that is required for the business. Then we run the plan. I have already mentioned that. Then we perform data refresh on your plans if required, and finally when everything is done, we approve the plan. Load measures from other plan. This is an activity in which you can copy measures from one plan to another plan, especially when the SOP plan is completed. You will be copying the output of the SOP plan as an input to your demand supply plan. Then process review stage. This is the main point where we are going to focus in this session, because rest of the activities you have already done several times in demand plan, supply plan, and demand and supply plan, as well as in planning central. This is the process which is different in SOP, so we'll focus more our time on this activity over here. And when it comes to process review stage, there are several different activities that is involved in the process review stage, and these are product review, demand review. So first we do the product review. If you are going to launch a new product, then you might to analyze what would be the future profit margin. And when you are launching a new product, you might not have any demand history or booking history. You might be getting the information from one of the similar product, and you might have some production already going on, and you want to predict when the existing product line will be finished, in the sense that your total supply will be zero. So those kind of analysis you do in the product review. Then we do a demand review. Next, supply review. Demand supply review you have already done so many times. Then financial review, and here we get approval from the financial people, maybe the finance controller or the finance manager, who needs to be involved in the SOP plan. As from the finance team, they will be doing the financial review. Now here, when you create all these stages, we'll see it in the system, as well as I have a couple of slides on that. For each of those stages, you can assign various person who needs to review certain activities, certain tasks, and then approve. They work on those activities and those tasks, and then they approve it. So it goes through various stages. Like when you are completing product review stage, whoever are responsible in your product review stage, they will do their activities, then it will go to the demand review, and whoever is responsible to demand review, they will do the activities, they will approve it, then it will go to the supply review. So in this way you follow all the processes, and finally when all the departments have already done their activities, it goes to the senior management. And for the senior management, maybe you will have SOP meeting once in a quarter or a couple of times in a quarter, depending on your product lead time and how often you have your SOP plan. And in the executive review, you present the information, what are the outcomes of your SOP and what are the major KPIs. And once you get the approval from the executive management team, then you approve that SOP, and then you can use that SOP output in a different demand supply plan. And this is the approval and execution stage. That is the last stage. Once everything is completed, you can approve it if required. Also, you can archive all your SOP outputs. We have already reviewed demand plan, supply plan, demand and supply plan. So these are the three key important planning methods, planning technologies, planning tools that we have in Oracle supply chain planning. And the fourth one is sales and operation planning. And this slide shows key important differences and functionalities of all those different plans we have in Oracle supply chain planning. Demand plan we have already reviewed. It is used for demand planning purpose. Supply plan is used in supply plan. We have already reviewed both of them, as well as you can create a single plan where you can do both demand and supply. The fourth option is the sales and operation plan, and we use this plan for aggregate planning, you can create this plan from the sales and operation planning work area. When you go to the system, we'll see when you create a sales and operation planning, most of the fields, most of the attributes will remain same as what we have already seen in demand and supply plan. Of course, there are few differences. Few fields are disabled or not available in sales and operation planning, and there are few fields which are completely new, which are not available in demand and supply planning. But rest of the fields, rest of the attributes that you have in these demand plan or supply plan, such as you have to select the organizations or the source system where you want to run the demand supply plan, or where you are creating the demand supply plan. You want to restrict certain items for which you want to create the demand supply plan. You have to select the calendar. We have already seen all those attributes in the demand supply plan. All those attributes again you have to select in the sales and operation planning. And the process of creating and sales operation planning will exactly same. If you want to create a new sales and operation planning, navigate to sales and operation planning work area, go to this page, manage plans, and click on the search button. System will show you all the existing SOPs, and if you want to create a new one, then you can click on the plus sign. System will open the sales and operation planning page where you have to enter all the informations manually, or the other option we have already seen several times. If you want to duplicate an existing sales and operation planning, then you select it and then click on the duplicate button. System will show you a pop-up where it will ask you a couple of options, and once you select those options and click on OK, then system will copy that sales and operation plan to a new plan where you can make the modifications and you can rerun it if it is required. Next, we'll review the various stages that we have in sales and operation planning, but before that, let me go to system and show you how to navigate to sales and operation work area, and how to view existing sales and operation planning, as well as if required how you can create a new one, as well as duplicate an existing sales and operation planning. So first I'll go to the Springboard. Let me open it from a different tab. So here, till now we have been using demand management in plan inputs, demand and supply, or you might have also supply plan, planning central. We have never used sales and operation planning. But if you go to this work area, everything will look same, and we have already reviewed all these functionalities in demand supply planning. So here, if you click on tasks, we have manage plans. It takes to the manage plans. The way the manage plans looks in planning central or demand supply plan, it looks exactly same in SOP. Load measures from other plan, we haven't reviewed that, we'll do. What is different over here in sales and operation planning is the planning cycle. The planning cycle is the process where you have various stages. As we have already reviewed, you can have planning stages such as product review, demand review, supply review, finance review, executive summary review. So all those things are done as part of the planning cycle, and we'll see how to create a new planning cycle as well as copy an existing planning cycle. But rest of the functionalities over here, like plan input, collect planning data, same what we have already reviewed. Load planning data, maintain supply network, sourcing role assignment set, BOD, planning source system, planners, calendar, calendar shift, calendar association, exception set, planning analytics, demand class, planning measure, profile option. So we have already reviewed all these functionalities, all these features. What is new over here is the manage planning cycles and open planning cycles, and these two we'll review in this session. And if you go to manage plans, let me click on manage plans and show you that. So this also exactly looks like same what we have already reviewed for demand supply plan. If you want to search, then you can click on the search button. By default, system will show all the existing plans, but if you have a lot of plans and if you want to view only 2 or 3 plans, then you can enter name of the plan and then click on the search button. And if you want to create a new one, then you click on the plus sign. Similarly, if you want to copy an existing plan, then you select that plan and click on the copy button or the duplicate button. This slide shows all the 5 stages that we have already reviewed in the last slide over here. So these are the 5 stages: product review, demand review, supply review, financial review, and executive review. Now, as per your business requirement, you might not be using all these 5. So it is not necessary you need to use all these 5. If required, you can use only 2, you can use only 3. Most of the organizations around the globe, they use this 5 or 3 or 4 of these steps, but they might be giving it a different name. Instead of product review, they might be calling it different. Instead of demand and supply separate review, they might be doing a combined demand and supply review, or instead of finance review, they might be calling it a different name. So when Oracle comes with these 5 stated review stages, but if required, you can change any of these stages, and if required, you can also disable. You don't enable any of these stages. When you create a new planning cycle, you can remove any of these stages if it is not required as per business requirement. Similarly, you can also change the name of any of these review stages. So these are the key points. Sales and operation planning is a process of recurring planning cycles consisting of activities, tasks and participants. So activities like each of those activity categories. So here this one, the product review, you can call it as a process review stage, or you can also call it as a activity category. Under each activity category we have several activities. Each activity you have various tasks, and for each task you assign a person with a time. And then on a regular basis you have calls, you have SOP meetings, and you make sure that everybody completes their task within that timeline that is given. And once you move from one stage to another stage, so first you'll start with, say, in product review you have 10 different activities and 30 different tasks. Once all those activities and tasks are completed, if there is a dependency, then it will move to the demand supply review. And then the people who are involved over here, like for product review, it will be the PIM, production information management team, who will be mostly involved, who will be mostly responsible for product review. But when it comes to demand review, it would be planners and buyers. And when it comes to supply review, it would be buyers or productions. So there will be various different teams who will be involved in various different stages. And you assign the name of each of those individuals who are responsible for completing a specific activity and specific task. The key point to understand over here is that Oracle comes with all these 5-stated stages, 5-stated activity categories. However, as per your business requirement, you can modify them. These are fixed, but these are also configurable. You can configure as per your business requirement. The planning cycle combines review of product development, demand, supply with a focus on future actions, and aligns operation planning performance with financial goals. And these 5s are what exactly we do in the product review. In product review, we perform a cross-functional review of new products and the life cycle of maturing products. Then in demand review, we analyze all the existing demand as well as what would be the future demands. In the supply review, once the demand review is completed, then we find out how much supply we can have with the existing capabilities and how we want to fulfill all our demand, then how much extra capability or capacity we need to build. Because in the supply review, you can have constraint based review. Use the latest consolidated unconstrained demand plans and analyze the feasibility of internal and external supply capacity to fulfill the demands. For example, you analyze whether there is sufficient supplier and resource capacity and inventory to balance with demand. If not, then what actions you need to take. You can have that as part of your supply review stage activity, and in that activity you can have several tasks for your operation manager, for your planning manager, or maybe your purchasing manager. Then financial review compares the profitability of operational plans for the current fiscal year relative to the financial forecast target. So financial forecast you might be doing in a different system. You might be using Oracle Hyperion, or you might be using some other system for your financial forecast. However, before you start your demand supply planning, you might to have some kind of correlationship between what is your financial projection in Hyperion system and what is your actual central operation planning and the demand and supply planning in your Oracle Cloud applications. So that is done by the finance team. Then the executive review, once all the departments done their activities, then the senior management needs to approve the SOP so that it can be used for a demand and supply plan. This slide shows how we create a planning cycle. As I've already mentioned, this is the two activities that we need to understand in this session. One is creating a planning cycle and then reviewing how to use a planning cycle. So to create a planning cycle, navigate to planning cycle page, and here by default Oracle comes with one planning cycle that is called default plan cycle. You can't create a new one. You have to always copy from an existing planning cycle. So first, if you don't have any other planning cycle, then select the default plan cycle. This is the plan cycle from where you are copying. This will be the new plan cycle. So give a name to the new plan cycle. Then the description if required, then what is the start date and end date for the planning cycle, who is the owner for that planning cycle, and in which plan it can be used. So suppose you have 5 different plans: SOP plan for say product line A, and SOP plan for product line B, or SOP plan for business unit A and SOP plan for business unit B. It is your organization decision in what level you want to have SOP plans. You can have various SOP plan as per depending on how big is your organizations and how you want to segregate the activities who are involved in the SOP process. However, when you are creating a planning cycle, you might want to use the same planning cycle for various different sales and operation plans. If you want to use a single planning cycle for 2-3 various SOP plans that you have in your system, then you can select those plan names over here. But if you want to have one-to-one mapping from sales and operation plan, I want to have only one planning cycle, then you have to select only that plan. This is not a mandatory field, but if required, you can select one or multiple sales and operation plan over here. This diagram shows a clear picture about all the things that we do in the planning cycle. So first is the activity category, or we can call it process stage, that is product, demand, supply, finance, executive. So these are the activity categories. Under each activity categories, we create various activities that we'll see. So for product, you might have 10 different activities, and under each activities you create task, and task is the thing that's a real thing, you know, real action that needs to be taken by some individual by a specific timeline. So here are the key points. Create sales and operation planning cycle on the manage planning cycle page in the sales and operation planning work area. We'll go to system and see how to create a planning cycle, how to modify an existing planning cycle, as well as how to copy. Actually, this is the only option. You have to copy an existing sales planning cycle to create a new planning cycle. Define your template on manage planning cycle page. What are your activities? What are the tasks? And who are the participants for each stage? You can edit the planning cycle later as needed. Now, when you copy, as I said, the Oracle comes with one seeded planning cycle. When you copy, it will copy all the existing activities, all the existing tasks. Now, if you don't want those activities or don't want those tasks, you can delete. Similarly, if you want to add a new activity or a new task under an existing activity, you can also do that for the planning cycle that you create, the new planning cycle. Even for existing planning cycle, you can also modify all those activities. Only if you are the owner. If you are not the owner, then you won't have access to modify. If somebody else has created a planning cycle, then that person, whoever is the owner, he or she can make changes to that planning cycle. Use the predefined planning cycle template called default plan cycle to initially create a planning cycle. You can modify the planning cycle to model the activities, tasks, and participants that you want to use in your sales and operation planning process. We'll see that in system. So for each of those processes that we have over here, the activity categories or the process stage, you have to assign a specific persons who can participate in activities. So first, for each of the process stage, you assign a participant, and once you have list of participants for each of the activity category or each of the process stage, then you can assign one of those participant in various tasks. We'll see that system. Then you use links to associate a task with relevant dashboards or report to carry out each task. Now, while approving a specific task, while working on a specific task, a person might need to view an infolet or a table or some graph before they analyze and before they approve that specific activity or that specific task. So if you want to do that, then you can use links to associate a task with a relevant dashboard or report. We'll see that in system how you can do that. And when you are doing that assignment, you can link to a graph, table, tile sets, layout. You can use any of these things. Use your user-defined planning cycle as a template for future planning cycles to copy over all activities, tasks, and participants. When you move forward, as time goes by, you might realize that your planning cycle is not perfect. Then you might have to modify them as the business changes. However, you can have one template as the base template, and you can copy that every year, or if you are making your SCP plan every 6 months, then every 6 months you can use the base template, copy it, and make changes to the tasks and activities as required the new business needs. And here are all the planning stages or the activity categories. So first is product review, then demand review, supply review, financial review, executive review. These are the 5 default ones, but if you don't want, or if you want to modify any of them, then you can go to actions and do that. And as I already mentioned, here we have two things. One is the activities category. Under each activity category, you have various activities, and under each activity, we will have several tasks with that in the system. And then first you need to assign participant to each of those activity categories or stages. So here for product review, if you want to have 5 different participants, then you click on this pencil button. System will show you a pop-up where you can select the name of the person who will be participant in this specific product review stage. And when that person logs into sales and operation planning, they open this specific planning cycle, they can only view those stages. So suppose a person A, which is from PIA team, and that person needs to work only on certain activities, certain tasks on product review, then you assign that persons to the product review participant and to the task, whichever task they need to work on. Unless you add a person over here in the participant date, you can't assign them to any task in that specific stage. So first you need to assign over here, then you assign in the task, and when that person logs into Oracle Cloud applications and open this specific planning cycle, then they can review that these actions needs to be done. They can also get an overall picture like what is the current status of the planning cycle, whether it is 80% completed, 100% completed. But if they are not assigned to demand review or supply review, they can't go and view the details of the demand review and supply review. So the SOP planning process doesn't require you to have all the review stages. I've already mentioned it several times. You can have only 2, 3, 4, 5, but you can't have more than 5. 5 is fixed. If you want, you can remove something or rename that, but you can add a new process stage. If you do not have a product review or a formal executive review, then you do not add any participant or task for those review stages. You can use configure planning cycle stage dialog box. So to go to the configure planning cycle stages, you have to click on actions, and then system will show you an option called configure planning cycle stages. A dialog box to rename or hide a review stage. For example, you can rename demand review to demand and supply balancing. To rename or hide a review page, navigate to manage planning cycles page. On the planning cycle, then click on actions and configure stages. We can see that in system. Once you click on configure stages, system will show you this pop-up, and in this pop-up you can see all the existing stages. So here, as I said, there are 5 stages. You can't add a new stage, but what you can do, you can remove it. How will you remove it? You change this column enabled. So if you change it as no, so here if you see, we have one stage called supply review, and the supply review is no. So once you hit no and click on save and close, system will remove that tab from this planning cycle. So for MI SOP 2009 V1, the supply review tab is removed, and we have renamed this specific stage demand review to demand and supply review. So now here system is showing me as demand and supply review. But for a different planning cycle, you might have all these stages, 5 stages, or you might have 2 stages. So whenever you open a specific planning cycle, system will show you only those stages which are enabled for that specific planning cycle. And if you have overridden the name, system will show you the overridden name over here in the tabs. You can only have up to 5 review stages in a planning cycle. You can't add anything new, and you must display at least 1 stage. Yeah, that's mandatory. You need to have at least 1 and maximum 5. Also, the planning cycle stage name must be unique. The name cannot already exist in the planning cycle. You can't have, one as product review, another as product review, third is product review. If you want to have that requirement, then you need to put some prefix or suffix. Product review stage 1, product review stage 2. Maximum you can have to 5 stages. Minimum you have to have at least 1 stage to have a planning cycle. And here also, if you want to make some changes, you can click on the edit button. I'll show you that. System will again open this pop-up where you can make some changes. If you want to make some description changes or start date, end date, or if you want to change the owner, one person was responsible for maintaining that SOP planning cycle, but that person left the company, then you need to change the ownership. So those kind of activities you can do by navigating into actions and edit button. Similarly, if you want to delete, then you can click on the delete button, and if you want to create a new planning cycle, then you go to actions and create, and system will again show you the same pop-up. This pop-up where you can copy the value from an existing planning cycle to a new planning cycle. Next, creating activity, but before that, let me go to system and show you first how to create a planning cycle and how to make all the changes, make changes to the stages as well as enable or disable them, or make modifications to the name of the stages. Create a new planning cycle, click on tasks, and then manage planning cycles. Here, system will show you this list of values that would contain the list of existing planning cycles. So if you click on the list of values, system will show you all the existing planning cycle that we have, and this is the default one. By default, Oracle comes with this planning cycle. Now to create a new one, click on the action button and click on the create. Because right now I haven't selected any planning cycle over here, that's why the edit, delete and configuration stages are disabled. However, as soon as I select one planning cycle, let's say I want to view the details of this planning cycle, then as soon as I select this one, then system will show me all the activities and tasks that I have under this planning cycle. So these are all the activities and tasks that I have for this planning cycle. And here system will also enable the other options, that is edit, delete and configure stages. So if I want to edit this specific planning cycle, I can click on the edit button. System will show me this pop-up where I can change the name, date, descriptions, all these attributes, as well as the plans where this planning cycle is available. Yeah, let me click on cancel. And here are all the stages. Right now we have 4 stages, and if you want to view why we have 4 stages, click on actions and configure stages, and system will show you all the stages right now. So right now the supply review is not enabled, that's why system is showing us only 4 stages. Now suppose I want to make it 5 stages, then I can make supply review as yes and click on save and close. Then system will show me all the 5 tabs that we have over here. demand supply, supply review, financial review, executive review. And in the demand supply, suppose I want to make some changes. I don't want to call it demand supply or not edit. I need to go to configure stages. I want to call it something different, demand supply, action, configure stages. Okay, here instead of demand supply, this is already overridden. Now for supply review, if you want to call it just supply, view supply or approve supply, then you can also do that. And approve supply, then click on save and close. So whatever is the process called in your business organizations, you make that changes over here by navigating to actions and configure stages. And here are all the activities that is defined and that is copied from an existing planning cycle from where you copied this planning cycle. But if you want, you can also make changes to this one. But before that, let me show you first how to create a new one by copying an existing planning cycle. So to do that, click on actions and click on create. And here first you have to select the planning cycle from where you want to copy it. Let's say we want to copy from SOP FY 22 Jan, so I'll select that, then I'll give it a name. Let's say it is MI SOP 2019 version 2, and description is not mandatory, but let's enter the same as the planning cycle. Date, it will be starting from 1st Jan 2019 and will be ending on 31st December 2019. You can enter any past date, so here system will allow me to enter 1st Jan 2019 even though the date has already been passed. It's a past due. And next you have to select the plan where you want this planning cycles to be available. You can select all, or you can select one or two specific SOPs. Enter all the informations and click on save and continue. Then system will create this planning cycle, and by default system will open it. You don't have to go and open that. So here if you see, system has changed the name to MISOP 2019 V2. So this is the new planning cycle that is being created. And by default system will copy all the information such as the assignee, the link, and the statuses. Right now the status will be assigned because it's a new planning cycle that is just created. Nobody has taken any actions. However, if you want to make some modifications, suppose you want to assign a new participant, then you can click on the participant button over here. System will show you this pop-up where you can select the name. I want to copy these 3 people, so I'll select all these 4, 5, whichever person you want to be participant in this specific stage. Then you select them and click on the move button, then system will make them available. Now these people are all available, are participant in these stages. They might not be assigned to a specific task or an activity, they might not be, but they still can view the details of this product review. If they go and open planning cycle, they can view the details of the product review because they are assigned as participant to this product review stage. Next, these are the planning activities that we have right now. So update product plan for new products, update product plan for changing and declining products. So these are the various activities, and whoever is responsible for that, they need to complete it by this date. Now suppose I want to make some changes to this specific activity. I can change the title, I can change to whom it is assigned, to what is the link. Here I can change the title as I mentioned. Let me just move it over here. Then the category is product review. I can change that. This is the stage. Then the owner, who is the owner for this specific activity, and if you require you can change it, as well as assignee. Then the type, it is general. If you want to have meeting, you can also select it as meeting. Then the link. So all these things can be changed, but you can't change, as I said, the status or the due date, because status will come when somebody takes an action and system will automatically change it. Similarly, due date comes from tasks, not from activities. Activities don't have any due date. Let me show you that. So this is the way, if you want to make some modifications to the activities, you make the changes. Instead of say product review plan, I just want to have product plan. So I'll delete it and click on save and close. Then system will change the title of the activity. And if I want to view what are the tasks under this activity, then I can click on the expand button and system will show me all the tasks. So right now all the tasks that we have under this activity. This is review and adjustment demand forecast and assigned to this specific person. There is no link, but for this one we have a link and the status is assigned. Now if I click, if you see, the due date is over here, and as per this due date, the due date is calculated for the specific activity. So if the task ends on 1st of January, then the due date for the activity will be 1st of January. Now if I change the let's say we want to make some changes to this activity, then select that activity and click on edit button. System will again show you a pop-up where you can make changes. And here let's say we want to change the due date, and the due date is going to be a fixed date, and it is going to be some date on say March 30th. And there are other things that you can change, such as the activity title, owner, assignee. Let me change the owner to the user with which I have logged in, as well as the assignee to the user with which I have logged in, so that when you open this specific planning cycle, we can make some changes as required. And the link is right now items. Let me select this and click on save and close. So now the due date will be changed from 30th of March, and because we have one task which is ending on 30th of March, the due date is 30th of March, the activities due date will be automatically changed by system. You don't change the system, will consider the due dates for all the activities, sorry, all the tasks, and it will correspondingly change the due date for the activities. So this is a way in which you can make modifications to the existing activities and tasks. If you want to delete some activities, then you select that and then click on the delete button. Sorry, this is the task we are deleting, so click on yes. System will show you this warning pop-up. Select this, and now system will delete it. Similarly, if you want to delete a specific activity altogether, then you can select that activity and click on the delete button. System several tasks over here. Now if I delete this activity, then this activity will be deleted, as well as all the tasks under it will be deleted. System won't try to reassign this task to somewhere else. Now everything is deleted. System will automatically resequence it. You don't have to worry about it. And now suppose we don't want all these activities in our product review planning stage. So what I can do, I can delete as many activities as required. Yes. So, and as soon as you delete, system will resequence them. Now we have only 6. Let me delete this one. Now we have 5, and system will also resequence it. Now this is the way in which you can delete and modify. And similarly, if you want to add one activity or a task, then you can also do that. Suppose I want to add a task after this task, so I'll put my cursor over here, and then I'll click on plus. So here you have activity and task. First I need to assign a new activity. I can create a task under an existing activity, but if I want to create a new activity and task, then first I'll create the activity. So let's say this is review product, and review product with all, give it a name, then who is the owner, as well as assigned to whom. Now here in the list of values in the owner and assignee, you can see only the participant. It won't show you the list of all the usernames that you have in the instance. It will show you only which are the participant for this specific review stage. Then type general or meeting, and if you want to assign a specific link, then you can select that link over here. Then click on save and close. So system will create a new activity, and it will be under after this. So it is now the 3, and under this right now we don't have any tasks, so there is no due date. So first we need to add a task. So click on the plus sign again and click on task, and system will show the task pop-up, and by default it will come the activity title over here, but if required you can also change it. If you change the activity title, then that task will be assigned to a different activity. Give it a name, let's say 01, just any name. Then it is going to be assigned to the same person who is the owner. And last time we entered a fixed date, but this time let's say instead of fixed date we want to put an offset date, cycle start 30, and so that means it is starting on 1st of January. That would mean this will be due by 30th of January. And then link, if you want to assign a link to that task, select that link and click on save and close. So now we have one, and this is ending on 31st of January, and because of that the activity is also ending on 31st January. So this is the product review stage. You can also navigate to all these tabs, all these stages that you have as per your SCP planning cycle, and if required you can make modifications. And once you're done with everything, then click on done, and system will save whatever changes you have made to that planning cycle. So this is the way in which we create an existing planning cycle and we make changes to the planning cycle. And once the planning cycle is created, if you want to open it, then you go to tasks and open the planning cycle.